Hi, I'm Tom Hayes, and this is my show, Upbeat. We're continuing our beautiful discussions with Bob Seibel. And why don't we pick it? Well, yeah, I had some questions last. First of all, have you got anything on your mind today? You want to?
Nothing. I'm just happy to be breathing. That's a plus.
We spent an hour and a half so far.
Wow.
And yeah.
I mean, not privately. We in public, please. Let's not bring back the bad frustrations of our trips to Europe. All right. You have your life. I got my life. You go your way, I'll go my way. I wouldn't bring it out in public, Tom. I got a career.
I was hoping that we would get, and today, hopefully, we will get to Europe. And the great time we had in Europe.
Yes.
But
it ended so sadly. I saw you on the bridge waving. Mon ami. Now go.
So, well, let's talk about what we were just talking about. You were in Vegas and you just saw a gal with a great sign. You said,
"Oh God, true story." Yeah, if you go to Vegas, you walk the Strip, and then they have bridges that attach the streets. And I said, I was there for 5 days, and a hooker finally propositioned me. I was so sad. It took 5 days, and I was game. I said, "I'll give you 100 if you make love to me and tell me I'm good looking." She gave me the 100 back, Tom. She said, "I can't do it, honey. I'm a hooker, not a hypocrite." I don't see the humor here. I don't see the humor. But I was walking across one of the access bridges, and evidently there were a lot of sad, very melancholy way, a lot of street people there, and it's a sad sight. And one of these ladies, about my age, in the late 60s, had a sign that said, "Lonely, desperate, and pregnant." And I went, "Honey, here's a buck." Oh my God.
Thanks for the laugh.
Huh?
Thanks for the laugh.
Oh yeah, thanks for the guts to be on a bridge. And I said, "When's the kid due?"
I was in Quincy Market a couple of years ago, and it just shows how comedy can incite people to give maybe a little bit. We're going to talk about that later with our Kickstarter project. But guys in Quincy Market on the ground with a cardboard sign with the writing, "Help me get drunk."
Oh my God! I know, no.
It was worth $3.
Right, he was honest. Other people go, "Can you give me some money so I can buy a house?" No, I don't think so. Not in the shape you're in.
But we will help you get drunk.
Homeowners is not giving you a dime to build a house. Maybe a cardboard house.
And we will help a 68-year-old woman with her pregnancy.
Unbelievable, Tommy, yeah. But we went to the Vegas thing. It's not the same because everything's tribute bands and tribute groups. And the days of Sinatra and the Rat Pack are gone.
Yes.
And that was the era that I kind of thought was when Frank kicked it off in the 50s, and ran it down. And he had 44 years out there. Woof. 44 years.
Now, you refer to Frank in your act.
To me, he was comparable to Mozart. He was, to me, the most creative talent. And he made 56 movies. And if you ever get a chance, on the heavier side, The Manchurian Candidate is one of the pre-Kennedy assassination, and they pulled that movie. They would not let it be run because it was so prophetic. It was almost to the weird stuff when they pulled that out in '62, I think it was. And then Frank started out with Gene Kelly dancing. He was a multi-talented guy. I mean, he wasn't German, he was Italian, which is, you can't have everything. But I'm jealous of those Italians, man. Really, you look at you and the rest of your people, you know what Frank called them? The Wapahos. Frank called them the Wapahos. And he says he hung with the Navajos and the Wapahos, the tribes out in Las Vegas. It's a CD that Frank recorded.
Yeah, he was pretty good stand-up, actually.
Well, I'm sure people were writing some.
Oh, of course they
scripts.
were.
Yeah,
But, but he delivered
No,
it
but he
well.
could do. Oh no, he was a funny creature, and I picked up on him about 13 years old. I went when they used to have 45s on the old 45. For all you young people, they little, the shape of a CD.
Yep.
A little larger, and I heard All the Way and Witchcraft, and I said, "That's it,
yeah.
that's
I
it." I mean,
remember.
I still play Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Fats Domino. I loved all that R&B stuff, but Frank kind of came a little bit. And I'm not knocking Elvis, a genius. He really, and Ray Charles. There's a certain pantheon of people that I listened to as a kid, and and then I had a passable voice when I was younger. It's all grated and beat up now from 33 years of screaming through the mic, not into the mic, you know, because I haven't got the capacity. I don't know if you noticed, I'm a very loud person over there, the thing's spiking. But I won a few singing contests in the early 60s at the Irish American Club in Everett. Everett had an Irish American, I think it was and I won one night. I was half in a bag, and I went up and sang I used to love Joe Williams when he sang with Basie.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right, well, okay, will you win? Well, I'm in love with you, and I got it done, and people going, wow, the guy's good. And then about a month later, they sent me a postcard. You are qualified for the finals. Now, the nerves, because I wasn't prepared to do it. I just went up, people, hey, he's got a good voice, put him up. So I'm like, oh, my God, in the finals, it's coming up pretty soon. So I worked at the General Electric in Lynn, so I left after lunch. I told my supervisor, I got to do this. I'm nervous. I got to go. So I started drinking around 3 in the afternoon. So needless to say, Tom, by the time the contest began, I was kind of rubbery. True story. I'm not putting you on. And they had one act, a little kid singing, then not a little kid, about 20, whatever. And then I was 23 or something. And now, from Lynn, finalist from last month, Bob Seibel. And I staggered on that stage, and there was a 4 or 5-piece band, and the guy on the reed was setting me up. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. People going, what the hell? So they hooked me. I went off stage, but now I'm mad that I didn't get my chance. In my mind, I'm singing like Tony Bennett up there. All right, obnoxious, drunk. And so they threw me, I'm in a chair, and toward the end, and all my friends are like, oh my God, everybody, about 30 people came to see me. And then at the end of the thing, they brought these 2 little Irish step dancers on, and I said, this is it, I'm making my move. And I went on stage, well, all right, well, okay. I got escorted. I never went back again for the finals. True story. Another one of my successful alcoholic career moves, and I wasn't called back, but that was a true story. Poor Irish step dancers, and I'm pushing my way. All right, I wanted to, come on, pick it up. And I'm trying to bring back Basie. You know, like they say, the true stuff is the funniest. You can create, you can write stuff down, but when you talk from the top of your head and people go like, wow, I'm telling you, here's one, the booze thing. We had an argument over in the Hart. There used to be a place called the Bayside Inn, and the pier ran off from the club, and the pier ran into the ocean. It was January. I'm with 4 of my buddies, and we're all drinking, and I wasn't a whiskey drinker. I was beer, wine, and what they used to call coffee sombreros, with the milk. And then I'd go, can you darken it up, because it was too light. But I'm drinking one night, and I had a wager with my friends. I said, I bet you that whiskey is like antifreeze in a vehicle. If you drink whiskey, you will not have a problem with cold. And I'll prove it, and I'll drink whiskey and I'll go in and take a dive. It was January. It was like right after a blizzard. True story. And the guys are going, yeah. So they walked me down to the pier, and I had enough whiskey in me. I was gone. And I was in my underwear when I used to wear it. And I was in my underwear. I dove into the ocean, immediate cardiac arrest. I'm exaggerating, but I went into shock. They pulled me out. I was like frozen stiff. I had turned every color of blue or purple, and they had the Nahap ambulance came down and brought me to Lynn Hospital, thawed me out. So it was and I lost the $10 bet. I'm telling you, me and booze. Oh God Almighty, it's true. You know, I'd go out on dates. I'd meet a girl the first night and be funny, you know, and half in the party. They'd be always cute. I'd go out with them. The next date, maybe a week later, I would do the priming up in the afternoon. So by the time, you know, I didn't have a vehicle. I'd be in the back seat. And by the time we got to the house to go and look in the back, I'll stay home. Yeah. And I always wondered. And then another night, my buddy Ronnie would pick me up to go pick up my date because I had no gas. I'll give you $1 for gas because in those days it was a quarter a gallon. A quarter a gallon for gas. I'll give you $1, just pick up this girl for me and take me to the club. Now, you ready? True God, I laugh at myself. We went to a place called Frank Segrel and Lynn, and in the back was a big lounge called the Leopard Lounge. And at that particular night, the Greek band, the Greek music was playing. And this girl and me and my friend Ronnie, who was a good-looking kid, cool kid, and I'm all buff, drunk, and so I'm going to impress her. I'm actually out on the dance floor by myself to show her what a great Greek, because I grew up in a Greek neighborhood, what a great Greek dancer I was. I got the handkerchief, and as close as I could get to a Greek dancer, it looked like a cha-cha. Meanwhile, she's giving him her phone number and address. So now, the night's over, she wants to go home. I wonder why. And so I said to Ronnie, drop me at my mother's house, pull in the driveway. So I want to go in and steal some money out my mother's pocketbook because I had more money. So I would come in the house, I'd do this. I learned it in the Army. It's called low crawl. I'd be low crawl up to the bed, and the pocketbook, I went up, and the nightlight went on, and her cane came down on my head. I had like severe concussion, but I got the $10. And I came crawling out with the blood on my head. And this girl is like, please get me home. So when I get out, he's kissing her. They're smooching in the front seat. And I went, my best friend, you betrayed me. And he's going, you jerk, you're a drunk. So we dropped her off. And she said, I'll see myself to the door. True story now, we're coming home and I'm giving them this drunken, how could you betray me? He said, shut up, you're obnoxious, you're drunk. We got to a place in Lynn where there was a bridge and a red light. I got out of the car and I laid in front of the car, kill me, kill me. He backed up and took off. It was raining, 2.5 miles to get to my house. I was like a water rat, a waff rat. Oh, insanity. You know, you wonder, how did you make it to 70? It's just incredible. It just, some of the stuff, like with the amputation, I don't know if that can go, but alcohol. Again, I walked through a glass door, and the finger was here, and I went through the glass door. And my dear wife, Pammy, called the police. Ambulance came, they brought the finger in a napkin, and me laying on the slab there on the ambulance, the gurney, whatever they call it. And then we're going across to the heart to Lynn Hospital, and I'm laying there, no idea that this happened. And I'm singing Sinatra. I've got you, and I'm drunk out of my mind. The party's still going on. I had no clue that I gave up a body part there, but you ready? Pam is in the ambulance with my finger in a napkin going like this. You ready? He loved life. And the cop says, he ain't dying, he's drunk. I'm telling you, Tom, you look back at your crazy life, and you say to yourself, how did I live this long? And I did everything possible, you know, to take, and then you wonder when I got my pilot's license to fly Cessna 172s, I called my friend Ronnie, who used to drink with me. I says, he knows I'm sober. I says, Ronnie, I got my pilot's license. You want to go flying? He goes, I wouldn't get in a simulator with you. You find a way to get that. It's insane. It's totally insane. I'm telling you. And you know what's funny? When you're a nut, you hang with nuts. Because all of my friends are legally should be in restraints. You know, I mean, most of my friends are all nutcases. They're all nut. When I think of the crazy lunatics that I hung with all my life, and I say to myself, my God, that a lot of us are still around, a lot of us aren't still around, but some of the things that have, you know, like my friend Peter, who lives in Florida, got the greatest sense of humor. I would call him and go, Peter, you're my best friend. You know what he'd do? Assumptions. And then once when I flew to Orlando, they picked me up because I lived in Melbourne. And they picked me up in Melbourne, and Peter was sitting shotgun, and Mary Lou, his wife, was driving. I hadn't seen him in a few years. And I reached over and hugged him by the back, and I goes, Peter, I bet you've been counting the hours. He goes, I am now. How can you top this? It's just incredible humor. And the funny thing, like you know as a stand-up, a lot of the stuff we talk about, death, divorce, disease, is tragedy. Yet you spin it, and people pay to see it and laugh and go, what am I laughing at? You lost a body part? That's funny, right? I mean, he got divorced, he lost money, that's funny, right? Guy loses his leg, that's funny. But the human brain is so weird that that fine line between tragedy and comedy. It's incredible, isn't it? That you can tell people stuff, like when you're on stage, I listen to you and I know that's all true, and I go, they're all laughing. Or I'll talk about the alcohol problem and the other stupid stuff that I did. And I go like, they're all laughing. Hey guys, I died! Thank God. Thank God that whatever that mechanism is in the brain that makes it humorous, it's so funny. Well, look at, you know, like tragedies, like Lincoln's assassination. There were jokes about that a few years later.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
of
that
course.
joke? Taking a play.
Of
Remember
course.
that one, Abe? You know,
Of course.
And there was some, in my period of history, and there were some things that I wasn't comfortable with, but people got assassinated and stuff. But as history goes on, it seems to be a buffer.
Of course.
You know, hundreds of years go by.
I think Chaplin said in life, it ultimately comes to comedy because in the long shot, it's all comedy. In the close-up, it's tragedy, but in the long shot, it's always comedy.
Amazing. Funny you bring up Charlie Chaplin. If anybody out in that audience ever heard of a song called Smile, smile though your heart is breaking,
right.
Smile even though it's aching. Lyrics, Charlie Chaplin.
Seriously.
Charlie Chaplin
Well,
wrote
he
those
wrote the
lyrics.
score. Like, what a genius. He wrote the score to his movies. Nobody could do that.
Brilliant man. Brilliant man. Again, had some tragedy in his life too, but like you say, from your looking at the overview, it's amazing how things can just make you. You know, yesterday, when I was selling those DVDs, people would call me driving home after they bought this DVD at a show, and they'd be yelling at me. Somebody in Maine, way up in Prescott, you beat me, you're $10. And I go, what are you talking about? He said, put it in the car, it doesn't work. I goes, DVD. DVD, not, right? You know,
Not
you
CD.
put it in the television, you
Right.
don't put it. Well, so therefore, I'm dumping on this poor guy from Maine yesterday. We're talking about the Sonata thing. I got this, when he had his own reprise, the album, the record company, and there's a 5-set reprise thing, and one recording 61, 66 with Basie, and then I forget all these other, and then it was disc 5, put it in, error. Now I'm so programmed to see in CD. The 5th one's a DVD.
Okay.
And I'm jamming it in. I brought it to people's houses. They're putting it in their radio. It's a dud. And then my girlfriend Diana went, oh God. McLean, can you take him overnight? Just a couple of shots in the butt. I'm telling you.
Oh my God. You know, this leads me to, you're about 6 years older than me, about 5 or 6, all right. But you were lucky enough, I grew up in Roxbury, in predominantly black neighborhood, so I got to hear all of the doo-wop, and I got to hear firsthand, I heard all the soul music, and grew up with all of that. But you, and ultimately got into jazz. I envy you because you were old enough in those days to go in town with the Copley and two of the Brown, what was it, Brown Derby? What were the places you
Well,
heard
the
jazz?
Storyville was at the Copley Square Hotel.
Okay.
And I was 13 years old, and jazz was, well, my brother was the primary influence. When he was in the Air Force and he would come home on leave, he'd leave some, what they call 78s. People out there have no clue, but 78, the old wax. And he'd leave them there. And I had enough brain power to look at who's this, and Basie and Hampton and all these, Sam Donahue and Kenton and all that stuff. And a lady next door, beautiful Greek lady, Anna, gave me an old wind-up Victrola. Those RCA with his master's voice thing. And I would spend my day on the front porch. The needles for those record were like dental drills. You put it on, you got to crank it, and it would ba-ba-da, 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 you got to crank it. My poor mother would go, shut it off, everybody's playing baseball, I don't care. So I'd crank that stuff up. And then some way or another, I found out that Storyville at the Copley Square Hotel, which was run by a gentleman named George Ween. George Ween was the owner of Storyville, also the founder of Newport Jazz Festival, 1953, 54, when Newport Jazz Festival started. I attended twice. I was horizontal at the time when I got there. Tough staying vertical all the way from Lynn to Newport. But I went there as a 13-year-old kid, and already I knew Miles and Monk and Coltrane. But I got there, and the man who ran it was a guy named John McClellan, who used to be on WHDH radio. If I'm wrong, somebody call. And there was a priest called the Jazz Priest, Father Norman O'Connor, a Jesuit from BC, who was a jazz fanatic. And they ran this teenage jazz club with a newsletter, and this girl named Stephanie Saltzman was the publisher, was the girl who wrote it. Well, that was enough for me. Every last Friday of the month, for 50 cents, you'd go there and sit there and watch the person who was appearing there that week would perform for an hour. Miles.
My God.
Basie, Ellington. I was 13 going, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here, but I know I'm doing the right thing. Not being precocious, but just going, Miles. I mean, you know, after a while, I went, I saw Miles when I was 12, 13 years old. And I remember Basie and Ellington, they wouldn't bring the band, but the combos, you know, it's
Sure.
And they talked to us, and I'd be like, I mean, because everybody was, I played ball and I played football, but my whole books were all on jazz.
Amazing. And
Leonard
so
Feather
13 you were going, but when did you actually start with the Victrola and listen?
Oh God, 10.
10, okay.
9, 10.
I mean, that's really amazing because most 10-year-olds can't absorb the, you know, the intricacies of complications, you know.
And when I used to visit my brother up in, he was a pilot up in Stewart Air Force Base, no longer an Air Force Base, and he had a gorgeous hi-fi, pre-stereo and pre-everything, but he had a hi-fi, and he put his name up, Seibel. It was the G clef. Not the G clef, the treble clef, and then E with a note, a quarter note, something like that. I couldn't believe the guy was creative as hell. But I would see all the albums that he had bought. And it wasn't just jazz, it was Gilbert and Sullivan, it was Tosca, all the operas, and I'd write everything down, and I'd come home, and my mother would give me so much a week for the paper route money, and I'd run down to the music store. That was it. And the other thing, my brother was a pilot, but that could have been an influence. I loved aircraft. And I'd have aircraft. I had model airplanes all over the place. And when I delivered my newspapers on Sunday, I would fly the plane du jour from house to house. And I would, when I landed, people go, what kind of plane is that? That's a B-17G with 14 radials. And I mean, I knew the whole thing. And I take off into the, oh God. I was in my 40s at the time. It was very embarrassing. I'm kidding. But, you know, but the jazz and the culture and the music and like, and all my friends were like, the guy's weird, but they dug it. I'd bring them in. I would capture people and bring them in my home. It was like a little 12 by 12 room, and that poor woman, my mother, would have to put up with the newest albums every week because I'd be so, you know, with the highballs. And you go from...
And you were 12.
You go from Puccini to to Monk. I got another one. It was like one thing where it just was a symphony and opera, and then it's Monk. And then you got to Howard Silver. People go, I got to go. And I'd be so hurt if they left. You don't love me. And the police would come. It would be a Saturday afternoon ritual. Police would come and knock on the screen door. Shut it off. And I'd go, I pay rent here, $20 a week. My mother's in the kitchen, little German short, little Hummel. She was as short as a Hummel. He's a drunken bum, Mrs. Seibel. They're mediating. And I'm going, I pay rent, Seibel, just leave. Oh, Tommy.
But
just one more. This is like 5-6 years ago, I'm in Lynn Woods, and this young man saw me, and he said to me, are you, Bob, you used to live on Wyman Street, right? And he said to me, this made me feel so good. He was like in his 30s now. He goes, I learned more about different types of music from the music coming out of your house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
got me.
Most, if you read that, most great comedians have a strong affinity for jazz.
Yeah.
Because, and we learn from that, and I love jazz. You learn the cadence, you learn the tempo, you learn it's the same, it's music.
Cosby said, jazz and comedy are the same because it's improvisation.
Oh, absolutely.
Two was Lenny Bruce, Mozart was a fanatic for Stan Kenton.
Sure.
Oh yeah, and Lenny loved jazz because he played it, Blue Note, whatever that.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, if you get a chance, there's a movie in Boston, and plus an exhibition dealing with the Blue Note jazz label that's out right now. It's going to be in Boston, 10th through the 15th, at some art center at Harvard. And it'll be a movie dealing with the Blue Note label, yeah.
Didn't Eastwood just did a thing about, which one? Was it about, not Monk, it was...
Bird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did Bird.
Yeah.
He did Parker.
Yeah.
Parker, 36. Parker and Mozart died at the same age, 36 years old.
Wow.
But look what they did.
Oh, yeah.
In 30, I'm 70. I'm sitting and acting. I'm kidding. I love it, man. I love it. Keep the money coming.
So you talked about the flying in one of the great, when we did your roast a couple of years back. Who was it who got up and talked about well, actually, you know what we're going to do right now? Let's, can you believe this? We just chewed up a half an hour.
Time flies when you're talking about me.
All right, we're going to we're going to end this one. Please come back for the second. Thank
Hurry,
you.
because I might not live that long.